Hey guys, it's Liv here. We are here today with our BBL Week 2 game. We're taking on mid-Pokémaster coach of the Alabama Rollouts. I do want to apologize, by the way. I also forgot to live com this, though I will say I've done weeks 3 and 4, and I remembered to live com both. So starting week 3, we will have live comms. I promise, I pinky promise we will have live comms. This is the last week of post-com. I know my post-com is a lot more shoddy, especially because I haven't done it in years. So I am sorry about that for anyone who does watch. Hopefully you guys still enjoy though, and without further ado, let's get right into things. So looking at this matchup, this was definitely a lot more of a troublesome matchup, I will say, than anything else we have done prior this season. For a few things, one being that Zera is definitely a lot of an issue for our team, same as Groudon as well, actually. Zera, Groudon, Mega Latias is really terrifying for us, to be honest. Looking at the team, for example, an Adamant Zera Aura can be pretty freely run here, and I couldn't really do much about it. Not only that, but Groudon has a billion sets that all work really well, such as like a Rock Polish variant with Weakness Policy. It could run a defensive set. It could run like a banded set, even, to be honest, or like just a Life Orb for attacks. It can run a lot of things. Mega Latias is just really hard for my team to break, and it's a lot more difficult to play around than Mega Latios was. P2 is also really annoying. Melmetal is really annoying. Florges is kind of annoying, but not a huge deal. The rest, I honestly don't care about. Tentacruel might come. The rest, I don't think it's Sock, Flapple, or Absol have any matchup here, which is great. But at the same time, though, even though it is predictable in terms of what I think will come, it is still definitely annoying mons for the first 5 nonetheless. With that out of the way, I want to get into the team real quick. First up, we have Gyarados Mega, of course, with Gyarados, Intimidate before Mold Breaker. We have Dragon Dance, Crunch, Earthquake, and Waterfall. I decided to creep Absol and Flapple, even though I don't think either will come. I do not want to be underprepared for either. So we crept both, especially because I can kill them both before Dragon Dance, or at least I can kill Absol before. I probably 2-kill Flapple, so it at least doesn't switch in. But it is still definitely something I wanted to make sure I was aware of. This will also outpace Adamant Zera by a bit in case he tries to like run Jolly creeping Adamant Zera. Figured that was worthwhile. So pretty simple mon. The coverage hits this team really well. Crunch, Waterfall, Earthquake is pretty perfect neutral coverage against this team, to be honest, if not better. So yeah, I mean, Gyarados will be a really nice late game breaker. I could also use it to just hacks his team out, or like just beat through stuff like Lottie in general. It's really good against a lot of the mons that I struggle with. So Gyarados was a pretty no-brainer option this week. Next up, we have Lunala. This is probably going to be my win con this week. We have Spell Tag with Timid Nature, of course. Moongeist Beam, Moonblast, Psyshock, and Roost. 200 speed Timid. This should outpace any sort of Groudon that would come against my team. Really just outpaces Jolly Groudon. I figured that was worthwhile. 252 special attack was meant to just 2-KO most mons. P2 is a bit of a bitch to kill. Spin off Melmetal also is. Otherwise, though, 2-KO or OKO almost everything on the team. The coverage hits this team perfectly. Pretty much everything besides like Groudon, P2, and Melmetal is hit for super effective. So, well, I guess Florges as well isn't hit for super effective, but it is still hit really well regardless by Psyshock. I almost want to run Calm Mind, but I figured there was a chance that Absol would come specifically to check this, and I could not risk it. So, couldn't run Calm Mind over Moonblast, sadly. Moonblast does still hit a fair bit pretty well anyway, though, so it is what it is. Next up, we have Banded Terrakion this week with Close Combat, Mega Horn, Stone Edge, and Earthquake. Basically, the point of the Terrakion this week was to just outpace any sort of Lottie creeping Terrakion. So I just ran max speed Jolly. I figured that mid would 100% creep me creeping like Groudon or something like that. So yeah, I figured I would just creep Lottie because banded 2-KO is pretty much the entire team anyway. Terrakion is actually very good this week. Close Combat hits everything besides the Florges, Tentacruel, and the Mega Latias for at least neutral, if not better. Mega Horn picks off Lottie, Earthquake picks off Tentacruel, and Stone Edge still 2-KO like everything on the team. So I didn't think it was worth it to run Jab. Especially when I figured that Florges would run a Berry for either Iron Head or for Poison Jab, and I figured Stone Edge just slaughters it anyway, so I figured, why predict? Next up, we have Salazzle. I anticipate Salazzle will actually be very good early game, especially this week. This is probably going to be my lead because it'll lead very well against Groudon, take advantage of the Sun with Overheat. Encore is great to lock in P2 under cover, also to lock in Lottie on a Calm Mind potentially, so I can Nasty Plot on it, and then Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave Overheat hits his team pretty well, in all honesty. The coverage is really good here. Really, the only switch in is Tentacruel, but I don't think Tentacruel can come because of Lunala and Terrakion. Also, Garchomp as well. As I said, I think the first 6 come just because, at the very least, Florges can wish up Melmetal. Tentacruel really can't do much that Mega Latias can't do. So, I'm anticipating Lottie to be his check to this. I can definitely Encore into Calm Mind if he tries to predict a switch, or even just Roost if he tries to Scout. So, I do have a lot of options with Salazzle. Air Balloon is great because it helps me actually guarantee hit off, even if it's Scarf Groudon, which is huge. So, yeah, I think Salazzle actually is really, really good here. It should probably claim a kill, if not 2. Next up, we have Silent Garchomp. This is probably going to be my win con this week. We have SD, Sub, Dragon Claw, and Earthquake. The coverage hits the entire team perfectly neutral, if not better. It hits a lot of key threats really well as well. I could probably just sub spam against Lottie until I Sonic pops and then Dragon Claw and at least to a KO, which is good chip for bringing in then Terrakion, for example, to pick it off. Also, it's good to beat like Zero 1v1 because I can always fish for playoff misses, and then that's a free SD that turn, or even just an Earthquake. So very, very huge, of course. I think that Garchomp can definitely win me the game. We're Adamant Nature with 232 speed. This was designed to creep, I believe it was to creep Groudon creeping Modest Lunala, I want to say. I honestly, I'll be honest, I forget what this was creeping. But it was creeping something important. I think it was Groudon creeping Modest Lunala. Let me actually see what Modest Lunala hits real quick. Okay, so it was not for that. I couldn't tell you what it was for in all honesty. But it was definitely some sort of overcreep on Modest Lunala. Yeah, it was important. That's all I can remember. Next up on the team, we have Zelcremi. I brought a Life Orb Akami this week with Calm Mind, Recover, Mystical Fire, and Dazzling Gleam. The only real switch into this is Tentacruel. Otherwise, I have a really, really free matchup with Dazzling Gleam plus Mystical Fire. Life Orb should help me at +1, near guarantee pick off Melmetal actually, so if it does try and hard switch it on a Calm Mind, without a Life Orb, it would chew a hit. But because of Life Orb, it's like 91 min or something to Melmetal. It's something stupid. So, yeah, we're going to do a lot of damage to that. 152 HP is better for Life Orb rolls, of course. We have the 24 Fizz Def is left over. 80 speed should creep any variant of Melmetal that wants to come. Even if he does bring Jolly for a no speed Alcremie. Felt like that would probably come against my team, so I figured why not. So, yeah, that's the team this week. Let's get right into the game. So, if we look at the team this week, we see Groudon, Mega Latias, Zeraora, Melmetal, Porygon 2, and Florges. So, as I predicted, the first 5 had to come. Honestly, the first 5 were all really good against me, especially the Zera, Lati, Groudon. Melmetal was still really good, but I do have a bit of counterplay, such as Groudon, such as Terrakion and Garchomp and Salazzle. And I have a lot of checks to it, so I'm not that worried. Florges, I thought was really good at just keeping that alive and making it more annoying, though. P2 is mostly an enabler for Melmetal to put in that much more work. I'm fully anticipating this being Tricker Melmetal, well, Tricker built into Melmetal, and then Zera, Lottie, Groudon all are to clean late game, with Groudon also being a really good Terrakion check, which is specifically why I brought Banded, was to pressure Groudon a lot better as well. So, looking at this team, I have a pretty free lead with Salazzle, so I decided to lead off with Salazzle here. Floor just decides to actually lead. I'm fully assuming that that was meant to lead off versus Garchomp, because Garchomp was probably the rocker here, in Mid's opinion. So, I'm really glad that I was able to force that out, of course. This did give me a free Sludge Wave, because, in all honesty, at this point, I didn't feel like going for a nasty plot against Florges, because I did want to scout for a few things. I wanted to, one, scout in case it was Scarf Florges, because the Scarf Florges could have clicked a Psychic move there, and while I can't remember if it killed or not, I do remember wanting to just get damage off regardless, in case of, even just a not, in case if it wasn't necessarily a Scarf variant, but still had Psychic. So I just wanted to go for damage. P2 being in, though, I figured I had a free plot, as he decides to go for Shadow Ball, which is perfectly fine. I go for Sludge Wave here. We do around 41%. I figured I could beta recover this turn, and then lock him into Encore. So he's now stalling out recovers, as I get another free hit off regardless with another nasty plot. +4 Salazzle should do a ton of damage, if not kill. As we see, this thing literally lives on 1%. Definitely unfortunate for sure, because Salazzle could have definitely at least killed this off, which would have been nice. Though, albeit, Zeraora came in really free regardless afterwards, so it wasn't necessarily like a free win or anything at that point. And even then, it was near impossible to set up against anything besides the P2 again. So, really wasn't a huge deal that Mid lived. I'm sure that he knew what he was doing that anyway. I'm sure it was probably a favorable roll regardless. So, wasn't really that huge to me, at least to see that. We do bring in Alcremie here, though. Alcremie I felt like was really, really free. However, I should have probably played that a lot better because, as we can see here, I had no reason not to go into Gyara. I should have always went Gyarados here. That was a massive choke because Alcremie could have honestly tore through the team that mid brought. Barring the floor, just really didn't have good counterplay to it. So, definitely was a bit of a choke on my end, 100%. So, as we see here, we get the Intimidate off. Mid goes for Side Shock. We do chew that enough to where we can take a T-Bolt even if mid goes for it. Because we are Mega. As we see, we live in like 1%. We do go for Dragon Dance here because I figured we had a very, very free turn going for Dragon Dance. And then we could go for any sort of damage on Melmetal. As we see, we go for Earthquake here as mid goes for Iron Defense. And at this point in the game, honestly, I was pretty tilted. I really thought we were going to lose the game because I didn't bring Sacred Sword on Terrakion, which I should have 100% brought. I've actually been bringing Sacred Sword on Terrakion like every matchup since in all my other leagues because of this. Because of this game right here, mid has scared the shit out of me into bringing Sacred Sword on Terrakion in like every league. So, yeah. No, I was terrified in all honesty. Luckily, mid goes for another Iron Defense, and basically my play here is to go for flinches. So I go for Waterfall Flinch, and we get it. I then go for another Waterfall Flinch, and we get it again. So Earthquake should kill this point, guarantee. I told mid I was sorry about that. I had to go for it, though. Mid understood that was my only way of not losing the game, right? Well, I wouldn't have lost the game right there, but it would have been a very bad position at that point in the game. Especially if it was able to get off a rest, that could have definitely been game. We go for a Waterfall Flinch again. P2 does chew, though. However, this does mean I can bring in Alcremie for free and go for Recover. Mid goes for Toxic here, which is completely understandable. In hindsight, I should have went into Terrakion and went for a Stone Edge. However, not a huge deal. Mid goes for Recover. He's trying to stall me out here. We see that he chews with Gleam. So this is probably his check, actually. And it was actually a really good check, to be fair. We do die to Toxic here, which is unfortunate. P2 is definitely in a really good position here. Again, I don't know why I went to Garchomp on this point. I should have brought Garchomp in on the Groudon, in all honesty. But I brought it in on this. And that was really bad in hindsight because mid could have easily had Ice Beam. Luckily, though, mid does click Recover here, which allows me a free Swords Dance. And at this point, I do get free Earthquakes, so that's really good. However, I don't actually kill. And as we see here, Tri-Attack is really, really good damage, of course, for mid. Luckily, we did pop our Salic. I mean, he didn't burn us either, which is huge. And we do get a free Earthquake off here. So at this point in the game, I'm feeling a bit worried. Had I brought Outrage, I could have at bare minimum probably killed the Groudon at +2, or at least had rolls to kill Groudon. Then Zera would have not been able to come in, which meant that Florges would have had to come in, which then gave me free turns with Lunala to possibly win the game. So I should have honestly probably brought Outrage. Was a bit of an undersight. As we see, Groudon does come in here, and Earthquake does not do enough damage. That's where, as I said, Outrage would have probably been enough to possibly win me the game with Terrakion, so it's definitely unfortunate. However, Groudon goes for a Rock Polish here, and that is honestly probably game. Groudon does live the rough skin just barely, and Lunala does come in, but I do have to take a Precipice Blades, which is enough to break me for Zera to come in and click Knockoff, which is definitely unfortunate. This is the big thing I was worried about, because Zera now gets a free Knockoff. However, luckily, mid actually doesn't have Knockoff, so we get a free Side Shock off. However, it does like no damage. If I clicked Moongeist Beam there, I would have still not been able to kill, but I could have gotten off enough damage to where it would have been, I don't know. It really wouldn't have made much of a difference in hindsight, but it would have been good damage nonetheless. Mid here decides to click Plasma Fist, and as we see, he does 63%. I choked really badly here. I thought he was maybe going to click Knockoff, which if he did, then that would have won. However, I don't know why at the time. I do remember specifically that's what I thought would happen here, but I couldn't tell you why I thought it. I should have always been sacking Lunala, then coming into this and clicking Stone Edge, because if I got 2 Stone Edges off, I won the game. And as we see here, Plasma Fist was all mid-clicked. Now, truthfully, this could have been just to avoid any sort of bad luck, I guess, with Close Combat dropping defenses, and then maybe for some reason I don't know. I don't really even know what I was thinking at this point. For some reason, though, I thought that mid wouldn't have clicked Plasma Fist, nor would it have done that much. So it was a really bad choke on my part. If mid was choice, though, I could have potentially won the game. However, even then, mid could have easily brought in Zera after sacking Florges to a Stone Edge, and then come in and click Close Combat, and I would have probably lost anyway. So I don't think I won the game at this point, regardless. However, I should have always stayed in there and tried to just raw attack. I don't know why I didn't. but it is what it is. We do lose the game 2-0 to mid. I played this really badly in hindsight. I think my team could have definitely won, but I played it really, really badly. A couple of things I guess I could have definitely done better. I could have run Outrage and GARCHOMP. That would have been huge, and I could have probably won the game with Terrakion at that point, because I could have clicked Stone Edge twice. And at the very least, Florges would have had to drop, and then Zera could have been 1v1 by Lunala. Or even if it wasn't, Terrakion would have had to... Well, Zera would have had to click Plasma Fist, because it could never have clicked Close Combat at that endgame if it was choice. Truthfully, I forget what mid-spread was, but it definitely wasn't Life Orb at least, so at best it was Magnet. If he was Magnet, he could have still definitely won the game, but the issue being then is Lunala would have had no chip, and... Well, I guess two knockoffs would have won. So mid could have still definitely won this if he was Magnet. If he was choice banded though, which I think he was, I'll have to double check that. Let me actually double check that real quick. Okay, so I didn't actually get mid's team. However, at the very least versus Terrakion, for Zera to have done that much with Plasma Fist, he could not have, well actually he could have definitely been Magnet actually. Now that I'm looking at the calcs, yeah, no, he could have definitely been Magnet. He was probably actually no item, to be honest. Or no boosting item. Either that or he got like a min roll. Like an absolute min roll with that. Yeah, okay. So he was either Jolly with a Magnet and it was a bad roll, or B, he was just no boosting item. He might have even just been Scarfed, in all honesty, for +1 Gara. But I don't think he would go that far. He might have just been like Sash or like Boots or something. Because maybe he was Boots to get around webs to still pick off Zera, or like Bandit Terrakion. Point is though, is that unless if he was like Scarf Zera, he was not going to be locked into anything, so he could have easily still won that end game in hindsight. So it is what it is. We're 1-1 now. We're taking on Mappa Justice next week, coach of the Portland GROUDONs. We will see you guys in that game. Until then, peace out, guys.